Should you offer cash or terms on your next real estate deal? Stay tuned and find out on Deal Architect Live. Welcome to Deal Architect Live, brought to you by the Wolfpack, where you can plan, create, and grow a real estate portfolio no matter what your situation is. That is your financial situation. So it doesn't matter if you have plentiful resources or no resources at all. Let's be clear. You can create a real estate portfolio in the Wolfpack. So today's topic, well, by the way, I'm Eric Parrish, and I'm a deal architect, hence the name Deal Architect Live. I'm here to show you how to create a portfolio, how to structure deals, real estate deals, with optimal risk and max profit potential for everybody involved. In the Wolfpack, there are several people, several players, so to speak, several roles we play within one single real estate transaction. And if you looked at a previous show, we have deal architects such as myself. We have wholesalers. We have JV partners. They bring buying power to the table. We have mortgage-ready landlords. They bring leveraging power to the table. And last but not least, we have home buyer partners, aka tenants. And yes, tenants make money in our ecosystem as well. They bring cash flow to the table because they service the debt. And they bring future leveraging power to the table because they're more time than not, they can't qualify for a mortgage now, but they will, based on the plan that we help them create, be able to qualify for a mortgage in the near future, which means they represent future leveraging power. Now, today's topic is cash or terms, your choice. Every time you run into a real estate deal, you're going to have to determine, based on the circumstances, should I offer cash for this or should I offer terms? More specifically, more times than not, it will be owner finance terms. So in order to do that, you need to know what the details are. So get into a conversation with the seller, find out what it is that they need, and provide them what they need. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to break down the deal today and tear it apart, put it back together so you can see how that works. And we're going to use strategies from our playbook that's available to every member in the Wolfpack. And you're going to learn the craft. That's the purpose of this show, to show you how we structure deals with very little risk, optimal risk as we call it, and maximum profit potential for all participants involved, including the tenants, whenever practical. Okay. I mentioned that we are using plays or strategies from our playbook. And today we'll be focusing on, we have about 11 or 12 of them, but we'll be talking about the risk-free cash flow and equity program and the Home Now program. Sometimes we use 3 or 4 strategies in one real estate deal. Others we use one. It just depends on what makes it work best for the people involved or the participants involved. Now, if you want to join the Wolfpack, it's a free community. Just visit wolfpack.co. Now, again, in this deal we're going to talk about today, I'm going to take you through it from the deal architect's perspective. And keep in mind that what you want to do is pay attention to the nuances between the strategies, between the details. See, the information is abundant in the real estate, on the information superhighway, the internet. Information is there. There's no need. If you're like me, you spent thousands of dollars on education, and that's okay. But we're here to teach you and perhaps cut down on some of that. You want to spend, you want to invest in yourself for sure. You want to get a coach, a mentor to be successful in this. That's why we have plenty of those available for you in the Wolfpack. But today in this particular deal, I'm sorry. My point was pay attention to the nuances, the story behind the strategies. That's where we fall short at. All the information, all the strategies, and all the tactics are all available to us. But it's just it's the leadership involved. It's the way you handle yourself and the way you meet the needs or create the perception of meeting the needs of the participants involved. That's what you want to pay attention to. So I'll tell the story behind this particular deal, and that's where your real meat is going to come from. Is my point. So we're going to be looking at multiple strategies within this one deal, as we talked about. But the tactics we're going to use is we're going to do a subject to in this deal and turn it into a rental property, and we're also going to do some new construction on all in this one deal. And it just was kind of unique in the way it worked itself out. Now, here is a picture of the deal. You'll see 3 lots here. Actually, the actual house is in the middle on lot 4, and there are 2 lots adjacent on both sides, one to the right and one to the left. We call that lot 3 and lot 5. And the strategy was we wanted to acquire the property and then separate the 2 lots adjacent to the center and build on those. But the problem was that the loan on it encumbered all 3 lots. So we had to pay off that loan before we could actually build on the other 2. So now this was a pre-foreclosure. So we had to, they owed more on the property than the single house was worth. There was no equity there. So we couldn't pay cash for it. So first lesson, you can only pay cash. It only makes sense to pay cash. You can do whatever you want, but it only makes sense to pay cash when you can get at a deep enough discount in order to pay cash for the property and pay for the repairs if there are any. In this case, there were, and still have enough profit for enough room to make your profit, minus all the other expenses in the acquisition and everything, of course, the repairs. So in this case, there was not enough equity. So we were forced to, in order to make it work, offer terms. So remember, cash or terms. If there's not enough equity, you offer terms. And that's what we offered in this case. So in this case, we did a subject to, meaning we took over the mortgage, took over the payments from the seller because they were about to be behind on the payments. And they wanted to save their credit before it was too late. So the day before, it would have reported, because it's reported late every 30 days. If you're 30 days late on your mortgage or any other obligation, then usually the credit bureaus report a 30-day late. So they didn't want to damage their credit. So the day before it was going to report, the deal was done. And it made the payment online. And these days you make every payment online. Made the payment online to save their credit. They didn't have a lot of equity, so they just wanted to be able to position themselves for the next phase in their lives. So that was the need of the seller in this case, in order to live to fight another day relatively soon without damaging their credit. So that's what we did there. We took the payments over in a subject to. They deeded the property over to us, and we had a plan for that property, even though there was no equity in it, as you'll see. So that was the first strategy. Then we had to do the repairs, and we'll go over this, but let's give you a brief synopsis or summary. Do the repairs and then get it rented to one of our homebuyer partners in the wolf pack. And then we would construct 2 new houses on the 2 lots on either side of it. But we had to get a little creative to do that, starting with the subject to offering terms. Creative financing is terms. Cash or creative financing, cash or terms. Okay, so let's go over this deal. And again, pay attention to the story, because that was the story. It was a pre-foreclosure. The seller wanted to save their credit so they could sooner than later buy another house as soon as they could save the money to do so, because they didn't have enough equity in this, and they really couldn't sell it to a retail buyer because it needed repairs. It had a chronic plumbing issue, as you'll see from the pictures, that we had to deal with, and they didn't have the money to do that, and putting more money in it would have taken the little equity that was in there, and it just didn't make sense for them to do that, and to spend, and they ran out of time. They couldn't make the payment again, and so we saved the day on that. We helped meet that need, but now we had to deal with this issue and make it a profitable deal, since we had already made it a deal for them. Okay, so phase 1, we'll go in, but first let's look at some pictures. Okay, we have the house here, and it's a nice house, especially on the inside. It was built in 1960, so it's definitely not a modern contemporary look, but it's a nice house on the inside. So let's look at a few pictures. Now, if you look on the right side, that's actually the right side there, in front of the fence and in back of the fence. That's a whole nother lot. A whole nother house could be built on that, which is what the plan was. And so that was the right side, and this is the carport. It actually has a garage there on the left side that we had to tear down, because underneath that was another lot as well. So you'll see what we're talking about here. So again, that's the carport, and so let's look at the other side of the house. This is that's actually the backyard, and that's the backyard. There's AC and everything back there. That's the backyard. This is the left side of the house, and we had to, which was the garage. We had to tear that down because that's a lot. We can build another house on, and we just use the carport as far as the house. Storing the cars and everything. So that had to be torn down. And this is the closet. And you see in the bathroom, the master bath, the tub was taken out and everything, and again, they had a chronic plumbing issue where everything would back up and just stop. You couldn't get sewage out and everything. So it took about a few $1,000s to find out what that was and then fix it. But we finally found out, and it was in the front, and the city took care of their part, and we still had a part to do here. But anyway, no need to get into all that, because that's not even my lane. First thing I always say, stay in your lane. We have experts for that. We have members in the wolf pack that do that part, that handle the repairs. We have realtors, we have mortgage people, we have title companies. Everybody does what they do. You do what you do and allow them to do what they do. But we found out what this issue was. So we completed the repairs, and so as you can see, the shower was gone, and the tub was gone, and we had to fix that issue. That's the master bathroom, bedroom there where the bathroom was. So it wasn't a bad house, yeah, that's the living area, kitchen, everything. So that's that. And again, let me revisit. The plan was to repair this house, get a home buyer partner in there, aka tenant, get it rented using the Home Now program on the lease purchase, and then build 2 new construction houses, and those are just renderings on both sides of the house. So that's the plan. So let's look at how we did that. Now, before we get into that, let me describe what happened. We took over the payment subject to, and after about almost a year into it, uh, the pandemic hit. It was little, but it was rented out. Everything was good. We also had uh, a tremendous freeze during the pandemic. The property came out okay with that, but that definitely slowed everything down. And in the meantime, the the previous owners, they, as you know, prices, real estate got hot, and they had this idea that they could take the house back and try to make the money themselves. Obviously, that wasn't the agreement. Their excuse was the mortgage is in our name, still in our name, and you're taking too long, so we're going to take it back and all of this. But the truth is, uh, they just wanted to uh, try to mess over us, and unfortunately, and make the money after we had put all this money into it. But obviously, we know what we're doing, so the house is already deeded over to a mortgage ready landlord in our group, and there's nothing they could do. They actually, we were paying the mortgages. It was rental property. It's owned by us now, at least in MRL now. We're making payments and everything is good to go. But they shut down the mortgage, back office, the portal, and everything, and called the tenant and told the tenant to start making payments to them and everything. And it was okay. We let that go, and there was no need to fight. Even the courts are shut down and everything. It's nothing they could do to hurt us. They started collecting rent payments, and come to find out, when they actually tried to sell it. That's when they found out that the property was already deeded in the new owner's name, and they really couldn't do anything. So they had to come back. The mortgage wasn't in the landlord's name, so it wasn't really hurting anything for them to do that during the pandemic, and we couldn't fight in court or anything. We just rolled with the flow. The only problem or downside was that, come to find out, they weren't making the payments again. So their credit was being damaged during this time, and the payment equity wasn't being created because the payments weren't being made, and the interest and the principal was, and so the balance went up a little bit during this time. It's about a 6-month period. So that unfortunately happened, and then they finally came to their senses and about to be foreclosed on, because we're on the backside of the pandemic now, and of course back opened up, and the mortgage company let them know that, hey, you're about to be foreclosed on. We found out. So now they want to save they want to get out of the way. We would have had to fight them to get them out of the way, or go ahead and pay it off anyway. We really didn't need them. We could have just paid it off and got them out of the way. But they turned over everything and didn't want the foreclosure, and worked with us to make sure it didn't happen. Cost us a little more, but we finally worked that out. That's the story behind this. Those things can happen, and you have to be aware of these things and understand, what will I do if this happens? What will I do if that happens? What if this? What if that? Have your contingencies in place. Your plan A, your plan B, your plan C, your plan Z. And of course we had that. But that's the stuff you can't find in the books and tapes. Those stories, those nuances, those things that happen in between the tactics and strategies. Okay, so now we're back in play now. What's the next step? So let's look at phase one. Phase one again was to complete the repairs. We did that. JV with a Wolfpack homebuyer partner, and you get in position to refinance, because remember, the property was deeded over to a mortgage ready landlord. They have leveraging power. They can refinance, but you can't really refinance a loan that's not in your name. So we needed to pay that mortgage off, separate the two lots, and then refinance that. So here's what happened. Step 2. Phase 2 was to, now that it's rented out, now that the mortgage is back in under control and everything, we JV with JV partners. Now it could be one. We needed like $185,000 to pay this existing underlying mortgage off that wasn't in our name. It was in the previous owner's name. We needed to JV with JV partners in the Wolfpack. It could be one, come with the whole 185K, or it could be 4 coming with 45,000 and change a piece, 47,000, whatever. Doesn't matter if it's one JV partner or 5 or 6, as long as $185,000 hits the table. So that's what happened, and we JV with JV partner, which happened to be the builder as well. So we kept it kind of tight knit. So we paid that we private equity financed the MRL, the mortgage rate landlord, paid off the FHA mortgage, and separated the first two lots. So the FHA mortgage encumbered all 3 lots. The new mortgage came in, private mortgage from the JV partners, only on the middle lot, lot 4. We separated lot 5 and 3. We didn't need to replat or anything. It was already separated. It just had a loan on all of it. So that step freed up the 2 lots, paid off the FHA mortgage. Now we made sure we did it right. We got an originator in, a mortgage originator in. So we created a note. Deed of trust. Texas is a deed of trust state, and set it up to where the servicing company, when you create notes, owner finance notes, you can have a servicing company just like mortgage companies do. They would collect the payments, and they would also report it to the credit bureau. So once we had one payment made to the credit bureau, made and reported by the credit bureau to the MRLs, or the mortgage rates landlords credit report, then we will go to the bank or a conventional institutional mortgage company to refinance that private note that we created. So after 30 to 60 days, once that payment is reported, and we'll refinance that. And so now we'll have a cheaper mortgage, lower interest rate, maybe 3.5%, 4%, 4.5% at tops. And the property was already cash flowing, so now it's cash flowing even more. So the MRL now has a property with risk-free cash flow. Now, we call it risk-free because we structured it where they didn't have to put any money down. It just took over the payments. And the repair money and everything came from elsewhere. So they ended up with the property risk-free, meaning no capital at risk, with cash flow and the tax benefits to boot. So it was a win definitely for them, for the mortgage rate landlord. Now, phase 2 again, we JV with the joint venture partners to provide the financing for the MRL, and then the MRL will refinance once the credit bureaus reported a payment to the credit report. So the new JP Morgan or the bank could come in and see that payment and recognize it as a note that a lien that needs to be, that they're going to be refinancing. Otherwise, if there were no lien or anything, there'd be a cash out. Cash out refis are harder to get and higher interest rates than a rate and term refinance when you're replacing one mortgage with another. So that's why we structured this way. And again, unless you want to become a deal architect, you don't have to know that, but at least you understand the concept or the reason behind structuring it that way. So that's phase 2. Now phase 3 Once we refinanced and separated the two lots, now the builder will come in and construct. Again, they are members of the Wolfpack too. Construct two new construction homes on those two lots on either side of the house. So we got the existing house in the middle, and we're building two houses on both lots. But we had to go through all of that. Wasn't that much, but still, we had to do some creative structuring to make this happen. Remember, we offered terms, not cash, to get this done. Now, we had to put in a little cash to get the repairs done, but not a whole lot. So now we're going to build two houses and then sell those houses retail prices, $250,000, $250,000, $275,000. Right? That's the affordable housing price in this area, to retail home buyer or another home buyer partner, depending on how we choose to structure it. But that's how we did it. And once that's all said and done, here's the profit distribution. Now, remember, we use the risk-free equity and cash flow program to create risk-free cash flow for the MRL and risk-free equity and cash flow for the JV partners. Because for the JV partners, they got a 20% return, but it's much more than 20% because they actually got their money out within 45 days. So they came to the table with $185,000, got it back to move on to the next deal. Now it's risk-free for them as far as capital is concerned. And then they're going to get paid. They got paid points and stuff like that for that, and the payment for that mortgage. But they're also going to get a return from the sale of the two homes that are going to be newly constructed. So, but they got 20+% return on their money, and they're on to the next deal. In this one, risk-free after 60 days. And the MRL, which again stands for Mortgage Ready Landlord, they got risk-free cash flow because they didn't put any capital in this one. They just got the financing and then refinanced that. We provided the money for them to finance, and then they refinanced. They ended up with a rental property, of course, that will be sold, and they'll make a profit on the end as well from the sale, the ultimate sale, unless they own or finance it to the homebuyer partner, and then they'll become the bank. But again, a lot of things can happen to extract maximum profit. That's why we get maximum profit potential from the entire deal. And so anyway, they got risk-free cash flow and the tax benefits from this property. And of course, the deal architect and the wholesaler made their profit upon the sale as well. So that is how we structured this deal. We took several plays, as we call it, or strategies from our Wolfpack playbook, real estate playbook. There were multiple participants. There were JV partners. There was a mortgage ready landlord. There was a deal architect. There was a home buyer partner. So there were multiple participants playing multiple roles, all on one house, but ended up being 3 deals in one. So that's an example of deal architecture at its finest. And every week, Thursday nights on Deal Architect Live, we will be bringing this show to you, chopping up a deal, structuring it with maximum profit potential, but first optimal risk for all participants involved, showing you how we do this so you can learn the craft of deal architecture. But first thing you need to do is go to thewolfpack.co. It's a free community, and join the Wolfpack. And there's a lot of education and participation, interaction among members about deals in real time. We have mastermind groups for you to participate in. You can play multiple roles. The idea is that we collaborate together using the Wolfpack method, which is another word for real estate collaboration, to create a real estate portfolio. No matter what your financial situation is, there is a role you can play within real estate deals to start creating long-term wealth. Because at this time, as we speak, the greatest shift of wealth in human history is happening right now. So position yourself to get your piece. And in our lifetime, this has happened. Every recession, we had a brief recession, and for some, it's still a recession. But every recession, money's not lost. It just changes hands. The wealth shifts from one group to another. And when you join the Wolfpack, it's time for you to be on the right side of that transfer. So again, visit thewolfpack.co, join the Wolfpack, learn the craft, learn which role best fits your situation. And together, let's create some long-term wealth. And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen, Wolfpack members. And I'll see you next time on Deal Architect Live.